Heartwarming Snowstorm encounter, young billionaire's incredible, life-changing reply to poor Gianna. Snow piled high on the streets of Chicago, transforming the vibrant city into a winter wonderland, albeit a cold and harsh one. In the heart of it all, Gianna trudged home, her feet heavy with exhaustion from a long shift at the diner. When she closed her eyes, all she could see were her mother's tired face and her little brother's sparkling eyes, filled with dreams she yearned to fulfill. The sound of snow crunching underfoot mixed with the howling wind, creating a symphony of winter's relentless embrace. What would it be like to chase dreams instead of just making ends meet? The thought warmed her, if only for a moment. At her modest apartment, the chill seeped through the walls, whispering of the struggle she faced. With her mother's health declining, every late-night worry felt like a weight on Gianna's shoulders, harder to bear than any plate she carried at work. But even as her heart tightened with anxiety, Gianna steadied herself. She wore her responsibilities like armor, determined to provide for her family, though the burdens of economic inequality loomed larger each day. Just across town, Ethan sat alone in his penthouse, his opulent surroundings feeling more like a gilded cage. The lavish lifestyle, inherited rather than earned, left him feeling hollow. He longed for genuine connection, something so scarce amidst the glimmering facades of wealth. Tonight, instead of another glamorous gala, he chose to volunteer at a local shelter, wanting to immerse himself in a world beyond the silk ties and lavish parties of his peers. Snowflakes swirled like confetti as Gianna stepped into the shelter, momentarily forgetting the weight of her responsibilities. She spotted Ethan, first a lone figure in this crowd, distinguished yet unassuming. Their eyes met, and in that fleeting moment, an inexplicable connection sparked. Honest conversations flowed between them, an exchange that bridged their vastly different worlds. Gianna shared stories of her family, the dreams she shelved for survival, while Ethan opened up about his struggle to find authenticity in his life of privilege. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the night wore on, the snow continued to fall, a blanket over the city's heartbeat. But as Gianna returned home, her heart sank. The heating system had failed. She could see her brother huddling under blankets and her mother, shivering beneath a thin quilt. Panic tightened in her chest. How could she keep them warm? The thought of paying for repairs was laughable. The stress settled in like a heavy fog. Unbeknownst to her, Ethan learned of her plight through a mutual acquaintance at the shelter. Torn between a desire to help and the fear of revealing his identity, he made a choice. He would send someone to fix her heating, an anonymous Good Samaritan act that felt instinctively right. But as snow drifts higher and the night stretched on, the tension between their worlds began to mount. Ethan's family legacy loomed over him like a ghost. What would happen if Gianna learned the truth? And would Gianna see past her suspicions to recognize the connection they shared? The night cast shadows over both their paths, leading to a reckoning that promised to challenge everything they believed about success and compassion, leaving both on the edge of something profound. Would courage guide them toward understanding, or would the weight of their worlds pull them apart? In that moment of uncertainty, a new snowflake fell, whispering secrets of change and possibility. As dawn broke over Chicago, the sun cast a soft glow over the untouched snow, promising a new day full of unspoken potential. Gianna stirred in her bed, the chill still biting at her skin despite the layers of blankets. Thoughts of last night's cold reality intermingled with the warmth of Ethan's presence flashing through her memory. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to dream. Maybe help was on the way. Maybe she wasn't alone in this struggle. Ethan, meanwhile, couldn't shake the feeling that his gesture had been inadequate. The repairman he contacted had reassured him they would be there soon, but Ethan's heart raced with anxiety. Would they get there in time? What if Gianna and her family had been without heat too long? He stared out at the city, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on him. This was the very reason he had come to volunteer to make a difference, and yet here he was, feeling helpless. At the apartment, Gianna poured herself a cup of lukewarm coffee, her hands trembling as she stirred. She needed to think clearly about how to manage this crisis. Her brother, Luca, bounced into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. "Gianna, it's so cold. Can we go somewhere warm?" His innocent question stabbed at her heart. "We just need to hold on a little longer, Luca. Help is on the way," she assured him, putting on a brave face. In a small way, it felt like lying, but she couldn't let him see her worry. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Gianna's heart leapt into her throat. Was it the repairman? She rushed to open it, revealing a kindly older man in heavy winter gear. "You must be Miss Gianna," he said, flashing a warm smile that melted some of her anxiety. "I'm here to fix your heating." "Just got a call from a friend," Gianna interrupted, not wanting to acknowledge who it might be. She stepped aside to let him in, her heart thrumming with a mix of relief and confusion. As the man got to work, Gianna sneaked a glance at her brother, still nestled under layers. He didn't know it yet, but warmth was coming back into their lives. But part of her was uneasy, a nagging thought that wondered about the true source of this blessing. Was it charity or something else? Ethan sat in his car outside the building, watching the repair van pull up. He felt a flood of relief that he had made the right choice. But what if Gianna found out? What if she pushed him away when she learned who he really was? His phone buzzed, snapping him from his thoughts. It was a text from his mother, reminding him of a mandatory family brunch. The thought of returning to his world of opulence felt suffocating. He glanced at the shelter's address saved on his phone, an urge to return overcome him. That connection they shared the night before, their laughter and unfiltered conversations played in his mind, compelling him to act. Meanwhile, the repairman finished with the heating, and the warmth began to seep through the rooms. Gianna breathed a sigh of relief, watching her brother's previously dreary demeanor brighten as the chill receded. Just as the air filled with warmth, a familiar wave of uncertainty washed over her. Who was this mysterious benefactor? Unable to suppress her curiosity any longer, Gianna decided that she would find out who had sent the repairman. She needed answers that might shatter the comfortable, albeit fragile, world she had created. But as she gathered herself for the task ahead, the doorbell rang again. Would this be the moment when she discovered the person behind her sudden luck? Her heart pounded as she cautiously approached the door once more, ready to confront whatever awaited her on the other side. Would this be the turning point in her story? As Gianna reached for the doorknob, her heart raced with uncertainty. She could almost feel the weight of anticipation hanging in the air. With a deep breath, she opened the door, revealing not just the cold gust of the winter air but also a familiar face. "Ethan!" she exclaimed, her eyes widening in surprise. His presence felt like a warm flicker piercing through the fog of her anxiety. "Hey, Gianna," he replied, his voice soft and sincere. He took a step inside before she could fully process what was happening. "I wanted to check and see if everything was okay." His gaze flickered to her brother, still bundled up but now with a hint of curiosity. Things are better now," she said, glancing back to the repairman, who was packing up his tools with a satisfied grin. "The heat's working again." "Good. I'm really glad to hear that," Ethan said, relief spilling into his voice. But something in his eyes suggested he was searching for more than just surface-level pleasantries. Gianna felt a mixture of warmth and wariness as she gestured for him to sit at the small kitchen table. She could see the questions brewing behind his calm facade. "I suppose you came to see who sent the repairman?" she asked, probing cautiously. "Honestly, I just couldn't stay away. I know what it's like to be in tough spots," he admitted, his voice sincere. "I wanted to make sure you were okay. And I wanted to see you." His words hung in the air between them, igniting a flicker of hope inside Gianna. The sincerity in his eyes vulnerable, a mirror of her own feelings tangled with confusion and gratitude. "Why, though?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Why would someone like you care about us? Ethan paused, hesitating as if searching for the right words. Because you matter, he said finally, his tone firm, as he leaned in slightly. What you're going through matters. We can't always fix things with money or warmth, but I want to help you however I can. Just then, Luca strolled in from the adjoining bedroom, oblivious to the heavy tension. Is he your friend, Gianna? The innocent question managed to diffuse the moment, and Gianna smirked softly. Yes, he is, she replied, her heart swelling with affection for her brother's innocence. Ethan smiled down at Luca. You must be the little brother I've heard so much about. How are you doing? I'm cold but warm now. Luca announced proudly, grinning from ear to ear. Ethan couldn't help but chuckle. Glad to hear it, buddy. Any plans for the day? We can go outside and play in the snow when it warms up. Luca said, his excitement palpable. Gianna's heart swelled with an unexpected pang. It was a joyful thought but also a weighty one as she considered everything Ethan's unexpected visit was stirring up in her heart, but beneath the surface, Gianna's apprehension flickered like a candle in the draft. With every passing moment, she was drawn deeper into Ethan's world and the kindness he offered. Yet would that kindness come with strings attached? As the conversation flowed, she felt the warmth of connection budding between them, mingling with the chill of uncertainty racing through her mind. Was this the help she desperately needed, or was it going to complicate everything? Ethan leaned closer, softly breaking through her thoughts. So can we keep talking? There's so much I want to share, and I really want to help. Gianna's pulse quickened. Would allowing him in change the course of her life forever? Could she really trust him? Caught between the warmth he promised and the doubts rising within her, she had to make a choice. Trust him wholeheartedly and risk her heart, or hold back and miss out on something real. As she looked into his eyes, ready to answer, the door creaked open once more, this time revealing another unexpected visitor. Gianna's breath caught in her throat. Who could it be now? It felt like everything hinged on the next moment, and she wasn't sure she was prepared for what was about to unfold. As the door swung wider, Gianna's heart sank. Standing there, framed by the icy daylight, was her estranged father. Thomas. His presence felt like a thunderclap in the quiet warmth of the room, its impact both familiar and chilling. Gianna, he managed, his voice wrapped in an awkward blend of surprise and unease. Time seemed to freeze, the air thickening with tension. Gianna's instinct was to hide, to shield her brother from the sudden storm that had just blown in. But Luca, blissfully unaware of the past that hung heavy in the air, ran to their father's side, looking up at him with wide eyes. Are you my daddy? He asked, innocent, the question piercing straight through to Gianna's core with its simplicity. Yes, Thomas replied, a shadow of emotion flickering across his face. He knelt down to meet Luca's gaze, his icy demeanor melting slightly under the warmth of the boy's curiosity. I am. Ethan shifted in his seat, a silent brokering of distance that made Gianna's heart pound harder. She felt a surge of protectiveness over Luca, an impulse to pull him back, to shield him from the man who had caused so much hurt. Why are you here? Gianna's voice cracked slightly, each word a small, defiant flame against the darkness of her past. Thomas straightened, looking intently at her, as if measuring the distance between them. I came to see how you both were doing, he said, his voice rough around the edges. To check on you. Check on us. Gianna scoffed, her grip on the kitchen counter tightening as the hurt bubbled to the surface. You've been gone for years. You don't get to just show up now. And Gianna, please, Ethan interrupted gently, sensing the rising tension. Gianna shot him a grateful glance, but the churning emotions within her demanded to be voiced. Why now? She pressed, tears pushing against the back of her eyes. Why didn't you care before? Before Thomas could respond, Luca piped up again, his innocent curiosity unmatched by the ripple of anger that coursed through the room. Can we go outside now? I want to make a snowman. Not right now, buddy, Gianna said, pain etched in her voice as she shook her head. She was torn between the gentle pull of her brother's joy and the storm brewing just inside the threshold. "Luca, why don't you go grab your hat and scarf?" Ethan suggested, trying to lighten the mood. "I'll help you get ready." "Okay." Luca bounded away, the door to the world outside calling to him. As soon as he was gone, Gianna looked back at her father, unyielding. "You can't just waltz back in and think everything's fine." "I never thought it would be easy," Thomas replied, the weight of regret hanging heavy in his tone. "I was wrong to leave, Gianna. I was afraid." "Afraid?" She scoffed, each syllable cutting like glass. "You were afraid of what? Being a father?" The truth in her words echoed in the space between them, drawing silence as Thomas struggled to form a response. "I made mistakes," he said finally, his voice quieter, deeper. "I can't change the past, but I want to be better. I want to know you both." Gianna felt the world shift around her. Could she let him back in her life, even for a moment? Did he deserve a second chance? "Ethan, what do I do?" she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of desperation and uncertainty. Ethan stepped forward, sincerity etched into his features. "It's your choice, Gianna. Just be true to yourself." But before Gianna could answer, the kitchen door swung open again, unfolding another surprise that had her heart racing. The moment twisted again, dragging her back into uncertainty, and she wasn't sure what to expect this time. Who was it now, and how would this new arrival change everything? The door swung open with a creak that seemed to echo through the kitchen. Gianna's heart raced as she turned, half expecting another painful reminder of the past. But instead of another shadow from her history, a young woman stepped across the threshold, shaking off snowflakes that clung to her long, dark hair. "I'm so sorry. I think I'm lost," the stranger said, her voice bright amidst the dull tension hanging in the room. She scanned the scene, taking in Thomas's stiff posture, Gianna's guarded expression, and the distant sound of Luca's excitement echoing from the other room. Gianna blinked. The young woman's presence felt refreshing, like a sudden gust of warm air. "You're not lost," she declared, surprising herself with the burst of confidence. "If you're looking for..." Gianna hesitated, glancing back at Thomas. "If you're looking for the ski lodge, it's just a few blocks that way." "Thank you." The woman beamed, her smile infectious. "I'll head over there shortly." She paused, sensing the heaviness in the air. "Did I interrupt something?" "Just a family reunion," Thomas muttered, holding his hands up like he was a guilty child caught in a prank. "Yeah, a very complicated one," Gianna added, her eyes narrowing slightly at her father. Too many emotions swirled inside her: anger, hope, confusion. Seeing an outsider in the chaos felt almost like an anchor, grounding her amid the storm. Unfazed by the tension, the woman's gaze fell firmly on Gianna. "I don't mean to pry, but, wow, family stuff can get intense. If you ever need to just talk or vent, I'm here. I was just visiting the lodge to escape my own family drama." Gianna felt a flicker of connection, a warmth that was inviting. "I'm Gianna," she said, her voice softer now, unsure if this random encounter could help soothe the tumult within. "I'm Mira," the new arrival said, extending her gloved hand. Gianna clasped it and felt the sincerity beneath the chill. Luca came bounding back into the kitchen, clad in his scarf and hat, eyes bright like stars. "Mira. You should come help us make a snowman." "Really? I'd love to." Mira crouched down to Luca's height, exchanging wide-eyed excitement. "But first, can we take a picture? For Instagram?" Luca nodded eagerly, a huge grin stretching across his face as he grabbed Gianna's arm, pulling her closer. Despite everything, Gianna managed a small smile, the pure innocence of her brother momentarily lifting the weight of the moment. As Mira took out her phone, Gianna stole a glance at Thomas. His expression was a mixture of confusion and recognition of his role here, and she felt herself grappling with the decision of how much further she would let him in. "Say snow," Mira chirped, snapping a quick picture. The sound brought a fleeting sense of joy, a glimpse of something lighter amidst the chaos. "Snow!" echoed Luca, filling the space with laughter. For a brief moment, Gianna felt a tingle of possibility. Maybe the warmth wasn't just from the new arrival, maybe it was from the hope that things could shift positively. The past was heavy and fraught, but perhaps, with just a slight tilt, they could turn towards something better. As the camera clicked again, capturing this unexpected union, Gianna felt a mix of apprehension and hope tightening in her chest. "Will you stay with us?" Luca asked, looking up at Mira with bright eyes, trusting and full of possibility. Mira glanced toward Thomas, then focused back on Gianna, who was caught in a web of confusion. Could they let this stranger in? Could anything nice really come from this day? Here was a chance for laughter laced among the pending storms, yet Gianna wondered how this would affect the fragile landscape of her reawakening relationship with her father. Was it too late to redefine their family bonds, or could this moment, a simple photograph taken among turmoil, shift everything? The question hung unaddressed, teetering at the brink of something new, as the snow continued to fall outside, washing the world in white. What would Gianna choose? The moment hung in the air, thick with both anticipation and uncertainty. Gianna glanced at Luca, whose bright eyes sparkled with innocence, soaking in the joy of the unexpected visitor. Then she turned back to Mira, who was still waiting, smiling warmly, inviting Gianna to join in this fleeting moment of happiness. I don't know," Gianna said, her voice barely a whisper. It felt so easy to let the warmth in, yet something held her back. Memories swirled in her mind, unspoken words, silences filled with tension. She wasn't sure if they should bring someone new into their mix, especially someone who seemed to dismantle the wall they had built around their family. "Come on, Gianna," Luca urged, his smile widening. "It'll be fun." There was something about her brother's excitement that tugged at her heart. Gianna could see the lifeline Mira represented, a chance to reconnect, to breathe, to laugh. And yet, could she really let the past fade for a moment? It felt foreign. What if they found out? She thought, memories of whispered arguments and deep-seated grudges creeping in. Mira must have sensed the hesitation. "If you're unsure," she said gently, "I totally understand. Family dynamics can be complicated, right?" Gianna sighed. Her mind raced through the complexities. The very presence of Mira was like a crack of sunlight through storm clouds. What if letting this stranger into their little cocoon of chaos could shift the weight that had squatted on her heart? Before she could answer, Luca tugged on her sleeve, pulling her toward the door. "Simon, Gianna. We need someone to help us find the perfect snow," he exclaimed. Okay, Gianna finally agreed, the words tumbling out like fresh snowflakes falling softly. "Let us do this." Mira's eyes lit up. "Yay! Snowman construction team, assemble." The three of them rushed into the falling snow, laughter erupting as they stepped into the white world outside. The snow crunched beneath their boots, sparkling like diamonds scattered across the ground. Gianna watched as Luca began rolling a massive snowball, an effort that was both arduous and hilarious. They worked side by side, with Mira showing them how to build the perfect snowman, layering the snow, fiddling with buttons for eyes, and finding a carrot for the nose. Joy crackled in the air, and bit by bit, Gianna let go of her fears. "What do we name him?" Luca asked, squinting at their creation, now an impressive snowman, complete with a scarf and hat. "How about Frosty?" Mira suggested, her grin infectious. "Nah, everyone names their snowman that," Gianna mused, a flicker of joy sparking in her chest. "Then let us call him Flurry," Luca shouted, gleefully deciding. "Perfect." Mira laughed, clearly captivated by Luca's unfiltered enthusiasm. Gianna couldn't help but smile. A sense of ease started to wash over her, like warm sun breaking through winter clouds. For the first time in a long while, she felt light, caught in this bubble of innocence and laughter. But just as Gianna began to think this could last forever, her phone buzzed sharply in her pocket. The sudden reality check made her heart plummet. She pulled it out to see a message from her mother, a reminder of the chaos waiting at home. How would this affect them? How could she keep this lightness when the shadows loomed so near? As she looked up, Mira had turned her gaze back toward the house, eyes clouded with something almost pensive. The brightness from earlier dimmed, and the question lingered between them. Gianna could feel it, a sense of unspoken understanding now surfacing, a connection that already felt fragile. How do we navigate this? Gianna thought, but there was no clear answer, just the weight of her choices. Let's take one more picture together. Luca called, breaking the moment with his infectious enthusiasm. As they posed around their creation, Gianna couldn't shake the myriad of thoughts swirling in her head. Would this beautiful moment lead to something more than just a fleeting escape? As Mira kept her phone raised, Gianna couldn't help but wonder what happens when the snow melts. Would everything go back to the way it was, or would this spark somehow shift the course of their fractured family? The camera flashed, catching a smile that masked so much, suspending the uncertainty in time. The day was still unfolding. What would tomorrow bring? As they gathered around the snowman, the bright flash faded, but the laughter still echoed in the chilly air. Gianna stared at their creation, a fluffy monument to moments shared, a patchwork of smiles curving into their laughter. But just beyond the edges of her vision, worry loomed. Gianna, look! Luca exclaimed, pointing toward the cafe across the street, his excitement palpable. They're setting up for hot chocolate. Can we go? She hesitated, glancing back at Mira. A part of her felt a beckoning warmth, the idea of cozying up together with steaming mugs, laughter mingling with the sweet aroma of chocolate. But another voice whispered fearful memories of their chaotic home life when they returned. Sure. Why not? Gianna said, deciding to lean into the warmth of this moment. Let us get warm. Mira clapped her hands, her enthusiasm infectious, and they darted across the street, snow spraying in every direction. As they stepped inside the cafe, the scent of chocolate wrapped around them like a comforting blanket. The small place was bustling with laughter and chatter, couples nestled together, and giggles from groups of friends escaping the snow. Gianna made her way toward the counter, where they placed their orders, eyes sparkling brighter than the holiday lights strung over the windows. Luca danced impatiently, barely able to contain the excitement, while Mira exchanged stories about her favorite winter activities. Gianna soaked it all in, the warmth of camaraderie pulling her farther from her worries, but as they waited, her phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with another message from her mother, this one heavier than the last. Gianna felt her heart sink. Can't we just have today? She thought, fingers trembling a bit as she set her phone down. Mira must have sensed the tension in Gianna's shoulders. Are you okay? She asked softly, her head tilting slightly, genuine concern flooding her voice. Gianna forced a smile. Yeah, just family stuff, she replied, trying to brush it off. Family can be tricky, Mira said, her voice thick with understanding. But it doesn't have to weigh you down all the time. Sometimes, it helps to let the good stuff in. Gianna met Mira's gaze, her heart squeezing at the sincerity she saw there. Maybe this was what she needed to share the burden, to open up about the weight she constantly carried. Just then, Luca's hot cocoa arrived, and he practically squealed in delight. Look! It's a mountain of marshmallows. He lifted the cup as if it were an award, and Gianna couldn't help but laugh. Their shared pleasure radiated around the table. In that moment, Gianna realized that perhaps it was worth letting in a little sunshine, even if it was just for today. Can I get a hot chocolate, too, with all the toppings? Gianna asked suddenly, surprising herself with the request. Of course. Mira chimed in, her eyes sparkling again with possibility. We'll be a trio of marshmallow lovers. As they settled into a cozy corner, cups warming their hands and laughter bubbling around them, Gianna felt the shadows lurking, but somehow, they seemed a little less foreboding. Maybe she could hold on to this light, this joy, just a bit longer. As they sipped their drinks, an idea sparked in Gianna's mind, a question she had been pondering since Mira arrived. How could she invite this newfound warmth back home without losing herself? Would it be crazy to even consider asking her to join their family for dinner one night? What if she started, hesitating just as Luca began to chatter about building the best igloo next? Gianna smiled at her brother's carefree spirit but felt that moment start to slip. Do you, want to come over for dinner sometime? You know, to meet everyone properly. The word slipped out before she could truly think about it. Mira's eyes widened, a mixture of surprise and excitement flickering across her face. The cafe felt alive around them, but all Gianna could hear was the rapid thump of her heart. What if this was a step too far? What if the shadows returned with a vengeance? Yes. I'd love that. Mira responded. Her enthusiasm lighting up the space, Gianna couldn't help but feel a swell of hope. What were the chances that this moment wasn't just a fleeting joy, but perhaps the start of something more? As they made plans, Gianna felt the pieces shifting inside her. She wasn't certain yet what it could mean for all of them, but she realized she wanted to try. What happens when you open your heart, even just a little, to the possibility of something beautiful? And as Luca giggled excitedly, planning more adventures in the snow, Gianna couldn't shake the feeling that her life was poised on the edge of change. What would happen next as her heart began to unravel the complicated threads buried beneath years of tension? The cozy buzz of the cafe faded into a soft backdrop as Gianna's heart danced nervously in her chest. Her invitation hung in the air like a warm hug, heavy with the possibility of something brighter to come. Mira's excited response ignited a spark in her, a tiny flicker of hope that felt new and unfamiliar. Luca, oblivious to the weight of the moment, continued to chatter about his igloo plans, describing every intricate detail with the fervor of a budding architect. Gianna watched him, the way his eyes lit up even brighter than the twinkling lights outside, and felt a wave of love crash over her. This was her brother, her little amusement, and she would do anything to protect his joy. Hey, should we look for a good spot to build it? Luca asked, his chocolate-streaked face breaking into a wide grin. Gianna smiled, letting her worries drift a little further away. Yeah. After we finish these delicious marshmallows. Mira giggled as she raised her cup, and they clinked their mugs together in a toast to sweet moments ahead. Gianna felt a warmth swell in her, a connection that felt like a gentle embrace wrapping around her heart. Still, the shadow of her home life loomed in the back of her mind. As they sipped their drinks, ghosts of arguments and biting verbal exchanges crept in, threatening to taint her afternoon. Gianna squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, willing those thoughts to dissipate like steam rising from their cups. Hey, wanna build that igloo together? Mira suddenly asked, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I bet we'd make an awesome team. Gianna was taken aback. You want to? Of course. Mira replied, her laughter bright and enticing. Just think about it. A giant igloo of glory. We can decorate it with snow-dusted branches and colorful scarves. It'll be a winter masterpiece. And just like that, the laughter returned. Gianna felt grosy urgency wash over her as she nodded. Yes. Let us do it. They finished their drinks and grabbed their coats, braving the cold air once more. The snow outside was heavier now, swirling softly around them as they stepped onto the frosty sidewalk. Gianna giggled as Luca darted ahead, leaving a trail of footprints in the thick blanket of white, his laughter ringing through the winter chill. As they found an open space, Mira was quick to dive in, hands scooping snow into formidable blocks that they could stack. We should create a doorway. And maybe even a little window. She suggested, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Gianna joined in, her heart light. With each handful of snow, she felt herself inching closer to slipping away from the weight that had become too familiar. The joy they were crafting together felt like a shield against the worries waiting at home. Did you ever build an igloo before? Mira asked, her voice rising above the wind. Not like this. Just a usual snow fort, Gianna responded, her fingers numb but her spirit soaring. For a moment, she couldn't see the walls that encased her home life. Instead, she envisioned the wonder of an igloo, a large space filled with laughter, and warmth that radiated from the love they were sharing. Once they finished, the igloo was a clumsy but magical creation, with scoops of snow and lopsided walls, but it was theirs. They huddled inside, the wind whistling softly around their little sanctuary, and full-hearted laughter echoed in the quiet space. "This is perfect!" Luca exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with the thrill of their success. As Mira and Gianna exchanged glances, an understanding passed between them, a shared realization of this new bond they were forging. But as Gianna smiled back, a text notification pinged on her phone. She took a deep breath, her heart sinking as she glanced at the message from her mother. The familiar dread clawed back to life, the warmth of the moment slipping just a bit. Just when she thought she could embrace this joy completely, there was reality, clawing at the edges. Mira noticed her change in demeanor. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah," just Gianna hesitated, feeling a mix of hope and fear. "It's just, family stuff." Again. Mira nodded, her face soft with empathy. "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. Just know that I'm here." Gianna felt her heart squeeze tightly. Would she burden Mira with her family's chaos? "Maybe, we could talk later," she suggested cautiously. "Definitely," Mira replied, resolute and kind. "And about that dinner, I can't wait to meet your family. I'll bring dessert." Gianna's heart fluttered at the thought. Could inviting Mira into her life usher in a change, a light that could soften the edges of her reality? As the laughter and warmth of their day together enveloped her once more, Gianna knew she could choose to embrace hope. This new friendship felt like a small beacon, urging her to reach for something more, something brighter among the shadows. But just as the sun peeked through the clouds at the thought of dinner and possibilities, another weight tugged at her. Would her family accept Mira? Would they welcome the joy she brought? The air turned heavier with unspoken questions, and as they stepped out of the igloo, the snow began to fall again, layers building up on their shoulders, a blanket of fresh beginnings waiting to unfold. Would Gianna finally step out of her comfort zone and chase the warmth she so desperately needed? Gianna felt the chill of the biting wind as they stumbled out of their makeshift igloo. Flurries danced like confetti in the air, glinting under the weak winter sun, yet the warmth she had experienced moments ago was fading. The joy and laughter of building their snowy fortress now felt fragile against the looming specter of her family life. "Hey, let's make a snow angel," Mira suggested, her exuberance pulling Gianna back to the moment. Gianna hesitated, gnawing at her bottom lip as she surveyed the endless white expanse. How could she indulge in carefree moments when so much weighed on her shoulders? But Mira had begun to flop back into the powdery snow, arms and legs whooshing dramatically. It was hard to resist. Gianna joined in, succumbing to the silliness that her soul craved. A splash of laughter erupted between them, echoing off the trees. Luca bounded over, eyes sparkling with delight at their creations. "Look!" he shouted, "that one looks like a dinosaur." He flopped onto his back, and soon enough, they were all sprawled out in the snow, laughter mingling with clouds of frosty breath. For a few blissful minutes, they drifted away from reality. Gianna felt a friendlier warmth creeping back in as they guided each other, crafting memories rather than dwelling on worries. But as she lay there, arms stretched out making another angel, Gianna felt a sudden pang in her chest. "Hey, what are you thinking about?" Luca asked, propping himself up on one elbow, a curious frown etched on his face. Gianna sat up, smoothing snow from her hair. "Just stuff," she murmured, unsure of how to voice her fears. Mira continued, "You don't have to pretend. It's okay to have those thoughts. It only makes the good moments sweeter." Gianna met Mira's gaze, warmth flooding her heart with gratitude. She saw in that moment the sincerity in her new friend's eyes, a reassurance that swayed her closer to opening up. "It's just. I don't know if my family will understand you. My mom can be kind of intense," Gianna admitted, the fear of judgment creeping back in. "Intense?" Mira echoed, tilting her head. "Like too much sugar in a hot cocoa?" That made Gianna chuckle. Exactly like that. Don't worry, Mira replied, confidence filling her voice. I'll bring cookies. Everybody loves cookies. Tension melted away as Gianna's lips curled into a grin, but inside, doubt tangled with excitement. As they stood and brushed off the snow, moments of wonder felt stitched with an unknown. Would her mother accept Mira? Would they clash, or would light prevail? Let us head back, Mira suggested after a moment. We could build hot cocoa fuel for round 2. Best idea ever. Gianna exclaimed, clutching the thrumming excitement in her chest. As they began to trek home, the ground swirled beneath their feet, muffling the sound of the world outside. But as they approached her building, the comforting buzz of downtown life seemed to fade, and shadows loomed in the distance. Gianna thought of going inside and felt the familiar wave of apprehension press upon her. Home wasn't just a space, it was an emotional labyrinth. Her phone buzzed again, another notification from her mother, and Gianna paused, heart racing. The message was short but sharp. Don't forget dinner tonight. Your cousin is coming too. Mira, Gianna whispered, glancing at her friend, the fear flooding back uninvited. What if tonight is a disaster? Mira stepped closer, offering a hand. You said that you want to chase warmth? Yes, Gianna replied, her voice trailing off. Then let us chase it together. With that, the weight of fear shifted just slightly. Gianna nodded, a small surge of determination rising in her. She would face this tug-of-war between hope and reality head-on. Whatever was waiting inside, she could navigate it and, with Mira by her side, maybe it would be different this time. As they entered the building, Gianna felt the warmth beckon her forward. But what awaited her inside? Would the light of her new friendship withstand the looming shadows, or would it flicker out before it ever truly began? As they stepped into the apartment, Gianna felt a sudden rush of anxiety course through her. The familiar chill of uncertainty enveloped her despite the warmth pulsating from the heater. She exchanged glances with Mira, whose encouraging smile somehow made the daunting prospect of dinner feel a little less threatening. Luca darted ahead, eager to announce their return. Mom! We're back. We built a snowman and an igloo, and his voice trailed off as he entered the living room, excitement spilling out only to be met with the worried frown on their mother's face. Luca, sweetheart. Their mother's tone changed, softening as she spotted Gianna and Mira. Who is this? This is Mira. She helped us build outside. Luca declared proudly, his eyes gleaming. Gianna held her breath, waiting for a reaction that might seal off their newfound joy. Mira stepped forward, and the nervous tension in Gianna's shoulders loosened as Mira greeted their mother with genuine warmth. Hi, I'm Mira. It's so nice to meet you. Gianna stepped back, observing the exchange. Mira's upbeat disposition radiated an infection possibility. Their mother's initial hesitation waned slightly, curiosity replacing the guardedness. Nice to meet you too, sweetie. So, you had fun in the snow? Oh, we had a blast. Mira replied, her voice bright. Gianna's brother is quite the snowman architect. The moment hung heavy with expectation as their mother's eyes flicked between Mira and Gianna, assessing the situation. But to Gianna's surprise, laughter broke through the tension. Luca, let me see your snow creation. I love snowmen. Their mother's tone warmed, pulling them in. The shift ignited a spark of relief within Gianna. Eagerly, Luca led their mother to the window. As he pointed out their hastily built snowman and igloo, Gianna felt hope blossom. Maybe Mira's presence would be the light that spilled through the cracks of their fragile family dynamic. Can I help with dinner? Mira chimed in, determination lighting her eyes as she approached their mother, who was still seemingly processing everything. Of course. Their mother replied, a note of surprise but also genuine gratitude creeping into her voice. As they moved toward the kitchen, Gianna felt a swell of hope. Maybe this dinner could turn out differently than she had anticipated. While they prepared, Mira and their mother chatted seamlessly, the warmth steadily radiating through the room. Gianna stood to the side, watching the two women bond over chopping vegetables and exchanging stories, a comforting familiarity knitting itself among them. "Gianna! Come help us!" Mira called, her enthusiasm reigniting the room. Gianna's heart fluttered and she stepped forward, ready to embrace this newfound connection. "Okay. What's next?" Gianna asked, a tentative smile breaking through. As they worked together, laughter poured freely, melting past resentments and fears. Gianna could hardly believe how light the atmosphere felt. For the first time in a long while, hope seemed tangible. Dinner was served, and they sat around the table, three sisters in spirit, twinkling fairy lights overhead casting a warm glow. They made toasts to their snow creations, laughter echoing off the walls. But even in the joy of the moment, the echoes of Gianna's mother's texts lingered in the back of her mind. Conflicted emotions bubbled beneath the surface. Just as she thought they could glide through the evening, doubt began to creep back in. "Mira," Gianna murmured, her heart racing. "What if my mom has a bad day tomorrow? Or if it all falls apart again?" Mira turned to her, sincerity shining in her eyes. "You can't control every storm, but you can embrace the sunshine when it shines." As their eyes locked for that moment, Gianna felt something shift deep within. Igniting a steadiness she hadn't known she'd needed, those words wrapped around her heart, promising her it was okay to hope again. Then it was time for dessert, and much to everyone's excitement, Mira produced cookies in assortment of colors and flavors. They crowded around the kitchen counter, picking their favorites, laughter spilling over like the frosting she had added on top. Gianna couldn't help but smile as she watched Luca devour cookie after cookie, blissfully unaware of life's complexities. As the evening wound down and the clock ticked closer to bedtime, Gianna followed Mira out of the kitchen, feeling lighter and more connected than she had in ages. "Thanks for today," Gianna said sincerely, gratitude and warmth enveloping them. "You really changed everything." Mira grinned, her energy infectious. "Just wait until the next snow day. We'll build an even bigger igloo." As the night wore on, Gianna tucked Luca into bed, a smile dancing on her lips. She felt hope blooming like flowers breaking through winter soil. But more than that, she felt a sense of belonging. Home wasn't simply a weight to bear, it could become a place of light, friendship, and maybe even forgiveness. As she finally slipped into her own room, Gianna took a moment to breathe, allowing the warm memories of the evening to wash over her. Tomorrow would arrive with uncertainties, yes, but with the strength of those new bonds, she was ready to face whatever storms lay ahead, and with that, she embraced the promise of a brighter tomorrow, knowing she wouldn't have to face it alone. So, are you inspired by Gianna, Ethan, and their heartfelt transformations? Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will warm your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the love flowing. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about the ending of Gianna's story. I want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.